Episode 200 of the HHH Racing Podcast is brought to you by the Adelphi Racing Club.
Adelphi Racing Club, offering a truly personal racing experience. Looking to own thoroughbred racehorses and win at the highest level circuits? We're not just a syndicate, and our members aren't just investors. We are partners. Experience the Adelphi difference. Join the club today. Contact us to get a taste of the Adelphi experience and come hang with us this Saratoga meet.
And now let's start episode 200 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good evening. Welcome to episode 200 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us on a very exciting day of horse racing. Post positions have come out for the 2022 Breeders' Cup, plus some very interesting news across horse racing that we will be discussing. But before we bring on my great co-host to talk about the Breeders' Cup post positions, please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. I don't know if our co-hosts have noticed, the subscriptions continually to pile up. We're getting more and more people interested in this fantastic podcast. We're so proud. We are close to 1,600 subscribers, so please make sure you subscribe on the right side of the screen if you haven't done that, and then also hit that notification bell, which will tell you when new content will arise. And we still have two fantastic shows this week, tomorrow and Wednesday, we'll talk about. Also, smash that like button. Anytime that like button is hit, the more like buttons, the more YouTube recommends this podcast to people that enjoy horse racing. The more subscribers we get, the more it helps all of us here at the HHH Racing Podcast. We greatly appreciate all of your support. You can see on my name tag, at H Kravitz is my Twitter handle, and I will be very active on Twitter throughout the week. And of course, my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com, on the bottom of the screen. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Anchor if you don't have a chance to watch us on YouTube. The Power Picks. Whoa, we were on fire last week with our Power Picks. The ROI, again, is close to 250. We had several winners. We had exactas. We had pick fives. And we have a blowout edition coming up. It looks like the plan Thursday will be sending out the power picks for both Friday and Saturday. That is the hope. And as you can see on the screen, if you're not familiar with our power picks, it's only $16 for the entire month. You get it every Saturday. But in this case, for the Breeders' Cup, you'll be getting it Thursday, which means since it's only $16 a month, it's only $4 every weekend. We are giving you a ton of information on our power picks, which is basically a tip sheet with ABC grids, spot plays, horizontal, vertical plays for $4. Are you kidding me? $4 for the entire Breeders' Cup cards. This is the best deal in the country. So please go ahead and check it out. You can see it through Patreon. Also, look below the video player, but you better sign up soon because if you want our power picks, we're sending them out on Thursday for Breeders' Cup weekend. Also, very excited about this. The Pick Six Syndicate, the money is rolling in. We are close to $10,000. That's right. Close to $10,000 with the money we've accumulated. We're playing Pick Sixes on Friday and Saturday. Now, you need to email me at hkravitzhorse@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you more information. But the deadline to send in money for the Pick Six Syndicate is this Wednesday, noon Eastern. Folks, time is going by fast. So if you want to invest into our Pick Six, you need to send money soon, and you need to email me ASAP so I can give you information on how to be a part of our Pick Six Syndicate. Again, the deadline, no exceptions, is this Wednesday, noon Eastern, to get that money in. We also have a great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. last thing before we bring in our co-hosts here, let me again show you what's happening this week on the podcast right there. Again, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be exclusively handicapping Breeders' Cup Friday with Justin Christine. Does a great job with In the Money Media and Trip No Pros. And then Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, full blowout, almost 2 hours of live podcast with a fantastic handicapper and the gentleman who is in charge of the Fairgrounds Racing podcast. He's been with us before, Chad Schexnader, fantastic handicapper, great guy to have on for Saturday's Breeders' Cup card. All right, we got a lot to talk about. Let's jump right in. We have two fantastic co-hosts we want to bring in tonight. First, a journalist from the Saratoga Special, my friend and yours, Mr. Paul Halloran, and the Prince of Arlington from right near me here in the Chicago area, Kyle Roscoe. Guys, post positions came out. A lot of big time news, gentlemen. How are we doing tonight?
Good, Howard. How you doing? It's the best week of the year right now. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Paul, our good friend and co-host Pete Visco, is out trick-or-treating with his son Jackson. I don't know about you guys personally. Got some Nestle Crunch there. Personally, I think he really wants to trick-or-treat more than Jackson and maybe TP a house or, who knows what he's got planned. But Pete's doing the good fatherly thing, and he will not be with us tonight, Paul, but he will be with us tomorrow and Wednesday.
And all the treats I have, Howard, are right in these pages of the DRF.
No tricks there, just treats, right, Paul?
Well,
hopefully, right?
We hope for a few treats.
Well, the Breeders' Cup people put a few tricks on some of the horses I like this weekend. We'll be talking about that. The other thing, there's two big news we have to talk about. And by the way, we're going to have huge viewership tonight. We already have a lot of people watching. If you're watching us live on YouTube, please make sure you any comments you want in the live chat, put them in the live chat. We're going to be very comment-centric tonight. We want to hear how you feel about these Breeders' Cup races and the post positions. If you're watching us live right now on Twitter, highly recommend you go to your tablet, your PC, your iPad, whatever, and go to our YouTube channel. Just go to the YouTube search bar and type in HHH Racing Podcast, because then you'll have an opportunity to go ahead and join us in the live chat, just like Mr. Roshan. I believe Roshan is from New York, if I'm not correctly. So, Roshan, Thanks for joining the show. Guys, real quick before we get to the post positions, Paul, I'll let you go first. The big news of the day in terms of Breeders' Cup is Jack Christopher, completely out of the Breeders' Cup, not decided to go to the mile, just out completely. Your thoughts first on Jack Christopher not competing this weekend.
Well, it's turned into a bit of a controversy, and it dates back. It goes back to last weekend. So the vets scratched a horse of Chad Brown's last weekend, and he was not happy about it. Jack Christopher, of course, was scratched during the week of Breeders' Cup week last year. Chad Brown's explanation today, he claims the horse is fine. Apparently the horse jogs funny, and they are looking over every one of these horses up, down, and all around, because God forbid the last thing we want is an accident on national TV. He claims that he sent Dr. Larry Bramlage, who is probably the foremost equine vet in the country, if not the world, all the scans, and Dr. Bramlage claims the horse is fine. Chad's story, and he's sticking to it, is that he thought there was a chance that the vets would scratch this horse after examining him on top of the race, and that would not be a good story for racing. Now, you got to decide, obviously the health of the equine athlete is of primary importance. However, my feeling would be, if it was that much of an issue, why not go to the Breeders' Cup vets before entries today and say, hey, look, Dr. Bramlage says he's okay. Can I get a heads up here? But anyway, he's out, which drastically changes the complexion of the sprint. And I'm not happy about it, because it's going to make Jackie's Warrior 4-5 instead of 2-1. And Jackie's Warrior was going to beat him.
Wow. Well, he won't beat on Saturday. because he's not
Correct.
competing.
That's
Kyle,
correct.
your general thoughts? Anything you want to retort back with based on what Paul said?
Yeah, well, it can't get beat if you can't lose, I guess, to that point. But I mean, realistically, like Paul said, it's all the matter that the horse is okay and the health of the equine athletes is top priority as always. Whether you believe Chad Brown's story or not, that's just down to the sole fact that we hope Jack Christopher's okay and he comes back next year strong. But I mean, like Paul said, it just kind of sucks now with the sprint. I mean, especially with Jackie's word drawing finally an outside post, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Um, it kind of just turns into Jackie's race to lose. And I saw that on Twitter earlier. I think it was from one of the DRF guys. Something monumentally wacky has to happen, I think, for Jackie's Warrior to lose now.
Yeah, I personally didn't think Jackie's Warrior was losing anyway. I just want
I
to
didn't
throw that
either.
out there. That being said, it is a bit of a bummer. It's 2 years in a row for Jack Christopher. Easily could have been two-time Breeders' Cup. Not easily, but I mean, realistically could have. And now, won't be able to competing. The other big news, guys, and it has nothing to do with the Breeders' Cup, but I think it's fascinating. Frankie Dettori going to be riding at Santa Anita this winter for the sole purpose, we'd all believe, to try to get a really solid Kentucky Derby mount. Who knows if it will be a Baffert mount? It actually can't be a Baffert mount, right? So as of now, it can't be a Baffert mount. Kyle, this is a big move, and I'll tell you what, Rispoli and Juan Hernandez and all these guys that are killing it on the turf at Santa Anita too. The big sheriffs in town, they are not going to have it nearly as easy as they have so far up to this point.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. And you would imagine that Frankie comes over, he's going to get a lot of live mounts, just being who he is. I mean, granted, whether he gets in cahoots with Baffert, D'Amato, or whoever he warms up to, you got to believe he's going to get a lot of good mounts out there, and a lot of his horses, whether for better or for worse, are going to be bet down. So, I mean, if you like horses that Frankie Dettori's not riding possibly that day, you might even get just a bigger price just because Frankie's on that horse, which is one way to look at it.
Paul, it's fascinating because, of course, he's one of the best riders in the history of the game, mainly a turf rider. I never thought Frankie is like an aggressive kind of go to the lead dirt rider at all. So there's going to be some adjustments to make, even for an experienced guy like him. But I'm sure he's going to figure it out pretty damn quick.
Yeah, and Howard, the real story, the rich get richer. You know who his agent's going to be?
Actually, I don't. I didn't have a chance to read the story today.
Ron Anderson, who represents John Velasquez and Joel Rosario. Talk about having a stranglehold on the jockey colony across the country. I think that Ron Anderson is going to need a third cell phone to get those mounts. But I think I agree with you, Howard. It's intriguing. And, he has ridden in Dubai the last several years with he had a big falling out with John Gosden. I'm reading his book, by the way. I've started it months and months ago. Frankie's autobiography. It's very, very good. I just, I tend to spend more time with PPs than I do with books. Novels are out of the question. But he had a falling out with Gosden. Now he's kind of back with Gosden. But, he's talking about the Derby and maybe the Triple Crown. Well, that runs into the Irish 2,000 guineas and potentially the Epsom Derby, which I believe is on Belmont Day traditionally. So, but, Frankie's got about a year and a half left. He said he was going to reevaluate after 2023. So, you know what? Hats off to him for taking a shot. He'll be there. He will be there opening day. He's not just making a cameo. He is going to be based there for Santa Anita.
Roshan said Flavian at Santa Anita. That surprised me.
Flavian is going to California.
Oh, is he? Okay.
For the winter, yes.
Wow. Okay. So guys, no excuses. I mean, I run a podcast.
Thank God someone is looking out for the show here.
Rosario's also going to be riding in California?
I did not hear that, but I did hear yesterday that Flavian was going out there.
Okay. Interesting. Well, anyway, that jockey colony has gotten, it's already decent out there. It just got incredibly more difficult. That's for sure. Guys, let's go to the PPs here. That's the big story, the post positions. That's the big story of the day. Now, as of this very moment, I have not seen DRF send out their final PPs. So
because why would they? The PPs were it was 5 hours ago that it was done. So why would they be ready?
I'm gonna do final checks on that as we go through the show. But this is really not handicap time. We're talking about the post position. So, guys, let's get right to the post positions. We're gonna go in order of the races that occur, which means the first race we're gonna look at. We're gonna spitball, guys. We're at 4 or 5 minutes each race. We got 14 races, so we can't, we're gonna be quick. Basically, what I want from you, Paul and Kyle, is your quick takes. Horses that can be upgraded because of the post, horses that can be downgraded with the post, any situations. Oh, we got a visitor. Hello,
Martha is making a cameo appearance.
Is she trick-or-treating, Paul? Okay.
No, she's handing out the candy, although her
right.
garb would indicate otherwise.
All right. I have a sign on my door saying, live podcast, trick-or-treaters go away. No, I do not. For all those people at home, I do not have that sign up. But I don't think I'll be getting too many trick-or-treaters at this point. All right, guys, let's go ahead and bring up right now the post positions for the juvenile sprint. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. Perfect. All right. Hopefully everyone can see it on the screen. This juvenile turf sprint is fascinating to me, Paul. And one of the main reasons is because in this particular race,
that's not the first race, by the way. You know that, Howard, right?
I'm sorry?
Oh, it is the first race. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll take the tension tomorrow.
Okay. The first Breeders' Cup race on Friday. There are 4 very fast horses in this race, guys, and they all drew next to each other on the outside. Sharpest Attack, who I wasn't sure was going to be getting in the race, is a threat to me. Tyler's Tribe, Speedboat Beach, the Platinum Queen. Paul, there is some unbelievable amounts of speed on the outside, which tells me they all basically have to go, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the first turn.
I agree, Howard, and I think the Platinum Queen is especially intriguing because, when we think of the Euros coming over here, even in the turf sprints, we don't really think of someone just wants to blast and go to the lead. Typically it's someone who might be more likely to come from behind. But everything you hear about this horse will be ridden by Holly Doyle, by the way. Everything you hear about the Platinum Queen is that, she is one way and she's just going to go. So having said that, Howard, you bring up a good point, and it tells me that we should be taking an extra look to see who might be coming along here, because that could spell price.
Kyle, I think Love Reigns probably gets the best of the draws. I mean, you don't really want to be buried on the inside, but Love Reigns is for Ward at 4-1, has tactical speed. I don't think this horse will have the lead. It's just a guess of mine. He figures to get a pretty darn good trip, I would think, from the inside.
Yeah, and I don't see this horse getting the lead. I mean, if you're IRAD and you see 4 horses absolutely blazing past you on the far outside, I mean, just set the pocket and just have a fun trip trying to get around them at the top of the stretch. I mean, even the 2 Euros in the middle, even Mischief Magic and Dramatized. I mean, like I said, with those 4 coming from the outside, I don't think they set a bad trip either. I think they got a pretty good draw as well.
I agree.
I don't think, Howard, I don't think Love Reigns has any chance to get to the lead in this race.
I mean, it's Wesley Ward trained horse, probably. I mean, I would never doubt any of that. But
I mean, 22 flat going 5.5 furlongs at Keeneland for the first quarter. This race is going to be like 21-3.
Yeah, I think you're right. For those of you that are not familiar with the show or have not heard, we are deep diving handicapping tomorrow for the Friday card and Wednesday for the Saturday card. So if you're looking for like specific handicapping, that's not what tonight's show's about, but please join us the next 2 nights. But I will say, guys, I am very interested in number 4, Dramatized. I love the post. This horse, the number 4, is the filly. Ryan Moore, by the way, in the saddle. Gets a good post, can close, breaks fine, and beat Love Reigns at Ascot easily. Now, I know that was in June, but at 15-1, I think Dramatized, the 4 horses, a horse I am fascinated with at this moment, just based on the post and the pace situation. Guys, it's not a race, I have to say, as I go back full screen. I don't think I'll be playing this race much on Friday from a wagering standpoint, just because it's a turf sprint and it's 2-year-olds, and who the hell knows. But I think you have to go a little bit price shopping this race. Don't you think, Paul? I mean, taking a favor in this kind of race seems a bit silly.
And don't forget, you got Frankie Dettori on a horse that Davey mentioned on your show the other night, Persian Force, who will be closing.
Yes.
Blackbeard might have been the favorite, and Blackbeard lost. He lost to this horse close twice.
Charles, this is not harness racing, sir. only in harness racing, Charles. They'll not be angling the gate. No. I was against the Platinum Queen anyway, guys. I'm totally against her now. If she wins from out there against these horses, that would be incredibly impressive. Here's Felice Kamanouche likes Persian Forest. Felice, welcome to the show. This gentleman has actually emailed me, guys, the last few days, interested in the Pick Six pool. And I think Felice is going to be at Keeneland, if I remember. So, Felice, welcome to the show, sir. Hopefully I'll have a chance to meet you at Keeneland. Don't be a stranger. Make sure you put up a lot of comments in the chat. All right, guys, let's move on to the next race of the day. And that's going to be the juvenile fillies. The straight juvenile fillies. Guys, I have to say I was a bit disappointed with these posts because the horse that I like the most drew absolutely horrendously. Guys, here are the posts for the juvenile fillies. Kyle, when I looked at this, I mean, it's no surprise. And by the way, I think Nick Tamero, who did the morning lines, who's been on the show several times, who you and I will be sitting with next to at the Breeders' Cup, so we can give him some crap if we don't like some morning lines into his face personally. I think overall did a great job. This is a very difficult job, the morning lines to the Breeders' Cup. I mean, look at this field and look at these morning lines. Kyle, who got the best of it? Who got the worst of it? What do you think?
I mean, I don't think any of the favorites really drew that bad. I mean, Chocolate Gelato, Chop Chop, and Wonder Wheel, I don't think any of them really got a bad post. But again, like you just said, I mean, 7-2 on Chocolate Gelato. It's probably going to be around the number. This race is just, again, it's juveniles. It's 2 turns on the dirt. I mean, they could go any which way. You can make a case for a lot of these horses. But I know, I think Howard really liked Raging Sea, and being all the way out in the parking lot is not a good place to be.
I did like Raging Sea. I did. It's not, now it's past tense. Paul, quick thoughts.
I was just going to say, when I mentioned at the open of the show that Chad Brown took the worst of it, this was one of 2 key examples. Raging Sea drawing the outside. Now, he does get Pratt. She does get Pratt. Yep, here we go. She does get Pratt.
Yep. There we go.
And she can be a little tactical, and I don't think the race, Howard, is the best addition ever. I'm really against Chocolate Gelato as a favorite type horse, to be honest with you. I mean, horse has done nothing wrong. 1-2. Beyer went down in the last race, which is not a good angle for this race. A declining Beyer going into the race. So I am going to be against Chocolate Gelato, and I think I will still use Raging Sea, but I will be a little more temperate than I would have been, because I did kind of like her too, Howard.
Well, if you don't know what to do, you can always do what Patrick Kunzel says and hit the good old all button. And rumor has it, by the way, guys, that Patrick has been pretty hot lately with his pick 5s and had a nice score for over $1,000 this weekend. So, Patrick, congratulations. I'm not sure where you're getting your information other than this fantastic show, but keep up the good work there, Patrick. Big fan of the show. We really appreciate him joining us tonight. Guys, we'll talk more tomorrow. I really like Raging Sea. This post is awful. I don't know what Flavian's plan is going to be. I mean, he's going to have to leave from there. I think she has big upside. I correct myself quick enough. She has big upside, but this post is awful. If Flavian wins from there, that would be amazing. But that will help her price. I'll say that. I'm agreeing.
Howard Wonder Wheel drew well. 5 for Wonder Wheel is okay.
She did, and I'm really not a fan of hers, but she drew well. I'm sort of against her. I'm also against Chocolate Gelato. Guys, I think Chop Chop probably got the best post as a closer.
I like Chop Chop.
Yeah. And tell me no lies. The West Coast horse is the 3, got a nice post. I just don't know how good those West Coast fillies are, but this is a crazy race. This is
Yeah.
going to be very close to an all button in our Pick Six syndicate. I think pretty much anything could happen here in the juvenile fillies. All right, guys, let's go on to the next race, the juvenile fillies turf. And this is another very difficult race here. Okay. Oh, so there's nothing to show there. What is going on there? Okay. All right. For some reason, it's not coming up here. Okay. We got an issue. That's all right. We'll just have to talk about it, guys. I don't know if you guys have the information in front of you or not. We're just gonna have to talk about it.
You got it.
Yeah, the juvenile fillies turf is a wide open race. I'm gonna scramble, guys, now and see if I can find some fields here. Paul, why don't you talk about your opinions here of the juvenile fillies turf?
Well, a horse. This is a case where Chad Brown did not do poorly at the entry at the post position draw. He has the number 4 Free Look, who ran second to Pleasant Passage in the Miss Grillo at the Belmont at Aqueduct meet. I think this horse has a very big chance. Pleasant Passage, who is a Shug McGahee horse, interestingly won that race, and Nick sets Pleasant Passage at 12-1 and has Free Look at 6-1. They're right next to each other. I like of those two. I think Free Look gets a long look here. There's a lot of talk about Phil Bauer's horse, who also did poorly in the post through the 13.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's spelled Xigera, and I was thinking Exagera or whatever, and it's like Shigera or something. He was on TV this morning. But there's a horse that I think, Howard, what people need to do, and we're trying to point them in the right direction, go back and take a look at the Alcibiades, and then go back and take a look at the Miss Grillo. Okay? Take a look at the Jessamine. Am I in the right race here? Yeah, the Alcibiades. Yes. In other words, one of those preps is going to be stronger than the other. Chocolate Gelato in that group is coming out of the Chocolate Gelato is in the last race. I'm okay, Paul. I didn't mean Chocolate Gelato. I meant Pleasant Passage and Free Look are coming out of the Miss Grillo. And there is the Natalma is the race up at Woodbine. Mm-hmm. You should take a look at. And Phil Bauer's horse, Shigera, I think it's pronounced, is coming out of the Alcibiades. So go back and take a look at those races and let your eyes do some work and see what you think of who ran well in those respective preps.
I completely agree, Paul. I mean, I'm just like, in these races, especially, like even the last race, these 2-year-old races, I love to find key races like that. And that's why actually, which I'm very happy about G. Laurie drawing William Buick, which probably honestly will dumb down her price. But I mean, you can watch a race like that one at Woodbine. She had a lot of trouble through the stretch, was still coming on, and then she lost to a pretty big monster that day. So I'm pretty heavy on G. Laurie at 12-1, just kind of putting my stuff out there a little bit. Whether she can win or catch a piece underneath, I'll definitely be playing her both ways. But I don't think Meditate, the morning light favorite, I don't necessarily think she drew bad either. I think this is a pretty good draw across the board, really, except for maybe Shigeru.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't have a real strong opinion in this race in general. I'm very interested in general in Midnight Mile, but the Europe, but she got the 12. That's not ideal. Pleasant Passage is a horse you guys know I've liked for a while on this show. It got a great post. It's another wide open race. The Euros draw a little bit to the outside, which is going to be interesting. Again, very, very tricky race, very wide open. These Friday races, guys, other than the next one we're going to talk about, look extremely, extremely difficult to me. What I'm going to do, guys, because I have a very minor tech issue on my end, is I'm going to be able to get to the the PPs, or excuse me, the post positions, but I'm actually doing it a little bit of a different way. So if it takes me slightly longer, guys, I'm going to apologize for that. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, there is a very heavy favorite that we all know about in this race, Cave Rock. The 3-hole, Paul, I don't think that's a problem really at all. The minor issue, guys, is I don't know if I can make this bigger. So I know it's a little bit small on the screen. I want to apologize to everyone that the number is a little bit small, but I'm sure a lot of people are looking at other things of their own information as well. K-Rock drawing the 3, Paul, seems very good for him.
I would agree. The way Cave Rock runs, it shouldn't be a problem. I've heard people say that this is the most likely winner of the 2 days. I think that's a bit of a reach when you're talking about a 2-year-old, where especially anything can happen. I really am going to take a pretty good shot here with the other Baffert, National Treasure. And I know I watched the race, so you don't have to put in the comments, you idiot, Cave Rock ran away from him the last time. I understand that. Johnny Velasquez, the horse, took a big jump up buyer-wise last time. Now, again, so did Cave Rock. He's 7 points behind Cave Rock. Cave Rock stays around that same 104, 105, and National Treasure jumps up 6 or 7 points. We got a horse race. I think the post for Johnny in the 10 is okay. You typically wouldn't want to be on the far outside, but in a field of 10, it's different than a field of 12 or a field of 14. And again, Cave Rock's going to take some beating, but I am going to have National Treasure very likely as an A or a hard B+.
Paul, get this. We got a fan of Suffolk Downs. Felice looks like that thinks Cave Rock will look like Cigar in the mask cap in past years. That's very possible. Kyle, I don't think National Treasure is going to put a lot of pressure on Cave Rock. They're both Bafferts. I think National Treasure will get a nice trip. There is one horse. Well, I'll let you talk. Go ahead. There's one horse that I think is fascinating in this race for a certain reason, but go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, I think Paul was taking a little bit of shot at me because in our pre-entry show, I did say Cave Rock was going to be the most likely winner, but I do understand the point. 2-year-olds, anything can happen. This horse takes pressure, and I mean, it could be anything could happen, but I don't see him losing. I just don't. I mean, I like the fact that 2-year-olds that get out front. I just like that angle, especially in these types of races. That with the races he's run at Santa Anita on a tight track. I mean, I'm just all for Cave Rock in this race. I just don't see it going any other way. I know Howard scored on Blazing Sevens before, and I don't see like National Treasure is definitely a threat to go underneath. I mean, if you have a Baffert exacta like we've had in previous years, I don't see why that can't happen either.
Paul, I think Nick Tammer did a great job. I'm not buying these odds. I would not be shocked at all if National Treasure is not second choice in this race. I just want to throw that out there. The other thing I want to say, 2 quick things. Of course, the big handicapping we'll talk about tomorrow. Hurricane J, is everyone listening now? Hurricane J, the one horse, has 0 shot to win this race. 0. But they scratched him out of the Bowman Mill this past weekend to run in this spot. Joe Talon's got the rail, and this, if you look carefully at the PPs, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. Guys, this is the only horse that I think could even sniff Cave Rock for half a mile. I'm not saying Hurricane J is a threat at all. All I'm saying is with Hurricane J getting the rail, he has to go. He has to go. And I would not be surprised if he gives Cave Rock a hard time early, going some crazy like 45, and people are looking at the screen. It's like, what is this 50 to 1 shot effing up the favorite for? I have that vision right now. Guys, we'll talk more tomorrow. Blazing Sevens to me is fascinating for a lot of reasons. I love the post too. Patrick Kunzel said, who are we pairing up in the exacta? That's my horse right now. And it wouldn't completely shock me if Blazing Sevens wins Friday. But anyway, Cave Rock had a great post. I don't think any of us would doubt that. And he's a very likely winner. Paul, as I go ahead and switch to the last race on Friday, the juvenile turf, how do you see Cave Rock moving forward? I mean, he's by Arrogate, but he's very headstrong. He's really fast. We fell down this rabbit hole before where, if he draws off and wins this race by 5, he's going to win the Derby by 6. I mean, I don't know right now. It's really too hard to say, isn't it?
Well, all you have to do is look at the history of the juvenile winner in the Derby, and it's not really that good. And, you take a look at the juvenile last year, it turned out to be a horrific reverse key race. So, I mean, he's going to be, if he wins this race, he's the he's the favorite, the Derby favorite as of Friday, but that's 7 months out. Also, be interesting to see if Cave Rock, if Baffert does lose and can't run in the Derby, where Cave Rock goes, and maybe this could be Mr. Dettori's Derby horse that he's looking for.
That would be interesting to me. We'll have to see. By the way, take it easy on last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile. My poor Command Performance is trying his heart out still to try.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Make me happy, but
trying his
yeah,
hard.
that one didn't quite pan out. All right, guys, let's get to the last race on Friday. And I apologize for the graphic. This came from Breeders' Cup, who screwed this up today. If I go forward, guys, you don't see anything, and so I'm very busy. It's 5-1 for Chad, the 8 horse. I think you can see the other prices. We'll mention anything. Again, I apologize for what it looks like on the screen, but I wanted to show. I think these graphics are sort of cool, and I like them. Paul, quick thoughts on the Juvenile Turf Post.
I think it's a very good betting race. I like Pax a Wallop a little bit. Didn't get hurt having the 2. Silver Knot was a horse that Davey thought, I think Davey said might be over bet. However, he also said he wants firm, and they did get some rain overnight last night at Keeneland. The track was a little muddy during the early hours of training today. Yes, I did watch the entire 3-hour FanDuel TV show. And
it wouldn't be because you're not working and I am working. Would that be part of it?
Well, I will tell you what, Howard. I did a fair amount of work from home today, and then once 2:30 came and the post position draw came on, everything was shut off. I
had to work, and Kyle almost got me in trouble today, but that's a whole other story.
I think it's a very good.
We'll talk about that off camera.
I think it's a very good betting race, Howard. I really do.
Okay.
I really think this is a good opportunity.
Okay. By the way, over 100 views just on YouTube right now, guys, which means we probably have several hundred watching right now. Thanks for joining.
I would hope so. It's Breeders' Cup week. Where are the rest of the people? We'll come to their house.
I mean, thanks for joining us for HHH Racing Podcast. Why would you go? I do want to say seriously, guys, real quick. People have a lot of choices this week and throughout the year to watch many different podcasts. They're growing on YouTube. We have a lot of competition. I never see it that way. We do want to thank all of you, the viewers and listeners, for joining the HHH Racing Podcast. We've been on, for those of you not familiar with our podcast or first-time watchers, we've been on since last year, January, so close to 2 years. We started from scratch. We now have over 1,600 or close to 1,600 subscribers. We're very proud of it. So please make sure you spread the word about the HHH Racing Podcast. Go to our YouTube channel. Go to our website. There's a lot of great information out there. We really do appreciate all your support. Speaking of which, if you do go, I haven't really talked about this, guys, enough, but if you do go to our website, in the top right-hand corner, there is a donate button. You can donate $1, $2. Hell, donate $500. That's fine with us. But you can donate to the channel in many different ways. There is a donate button. We greatly appreciate any support. We thank you for that. Kyle, your thoughts on the Juvenile Turf?
I mean, the only thing I know, Davey was also interested. I was a little interested in Victoria Road and drawing the 1. I mean, it's fine, but being on the inside, especially in a 14-horse field coming from home as 2-year-olds, it's not my favorite thing. So it's a little bit wishy-washy for me now at this point. But I mean, and the winner is, if you like him, he drew really well. I'm very busy, drew very well with a lot of tactical speed. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go in this race, just like every other race, it seems like, on this Friday, maybe except for the Juvenile. But, I mean, it's just this Friday should be a really good day to make some money and gear up for Breeders' Cup Saturday.
Another very difficult race. Victoria Road's a horse I'm interested in. I just didn't want Victoria Road to draw the far outside. Some might think the 1 hole is bad for a Euro. Watch the show. Here's another thing, guys, especially if you are new to the show. Episode, I'm going to screw up the number. I think it's 198. I've done so many. 198 with Davey Lane, the European special. We talked about Victoria Road in detail. This horse breaks fantastically, not just for a Euro, like just breaks really well. Because of that, I'm less worried about the rail, guys. He also wants to be covered up. I don't have an issue with the rail. I think Victoria Road drew well. Pax a Wallop, I agree, Paul, drew well. Silver Knot, who I don't really like, did draw well before. It's going to be interesting. By the way, Mo Stash, the number 12, who's 20-1, I didn't think would be in this race. I thought he'd be in the sprint. He actually had a very interesting trip last time in a sprint race. If the number 12 Mo Stash can get the distance, just watch the replay of his last race. I just want to throw that out there. But anyway, guys, this can be a great Friday. The juvenile races are very difficult, other than Cave Rock. I think we'd all agree with that. All right, guys, let's get to Saturday. I think what we're going to do, guys, we're going to go over a few races Saturday. We'll take a quick 1-minute break, and then we'll come back to finish out the Saturday card. The first race on Saturday is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. And I'm going to save my handicapping comments for Wednesday. All I will say is I have a very, very, very strong opinion in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I have a horse that I absolutely love in this race, and she got a good post. There's a lot of speed in here. Paul, as I bring up the PPs here in just a second, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of a second here. What are your thoughts on the post positions for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint? I'll bring up the PPs here in just a second, the post positions.
I thought, well, the horse that I want to use, Echo Zulu, did not draw well. Although didn't draw, put it this way, if you got to be far outside, I'd rather be far outside at 7 furlongs than a mile going around 2 turns where you have the turns right on top of you.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's awful. This horse is 6 for 7 lifetime and lost the Kentucky Oaks, as it turns out, at a distance that she wanted no part of. So if she's 6-1 morning line, as Mr. Tamaro predicts she will be, I'll be using her. I think, Howard, this will probably fit in with the horse you like, and I don't know who it is, but I think that we might have a rerun, and don't be surprised if this race is won from relatively far back again. And I see a horse that I know I'm going to use that falls into that chain of thinking. We know, Howard, that you have a daughter in this race, so you can't put her up for adoption in the Breeders' Cup, obligatory. So she got way behind she had no chance last time. But race flow is going to have a lot to do with how this race comes out. You have the defending champ Cece, who was a 7 furlong specialist, who ran poorly in the Ballerina in Saratoga, but other than that, has run pretty well this year. So I think it's a very competitive race, and I'm not going to be surprised when it's won from behind.
Kyle, your thoughts?
I mean, the one thing that I was going to say is this shapes up exactly kind of like the juvenile turf sprint in a way, that you have all these horses that want to come flying from the outside for the lead. And, it sets up. And again, what I was going to say was, if you watch this show for any period of time, you'd exactly know Howard's daughter's in this race, and you know exactly who he's kind of keying in on. But I mean, Cece, like Paul just mentioned, I mean, defending champion, granted, a race like this is extremely hard to repeat in, but if the race shows up like it says it will on paper, Cece has definitely got the running style to be able to be in this race, because I mean, the 10, 12, 13, and even slam the one's probably going to go from the inside post. So a lot of setup here for these, for the 4 and the 7.
By the way, we want to thank the Ghost Zapper, who's not only a great horse, but a new viewer of the show. So Ghost Zapper, thanks for joining the show. Like Rowley Miles, just want to mention a lot of our great new people in the chat. Kevin B made a good point here. I just put up a second ago that there is a lot of speed in this race, especially on the outside and on the inside. You got Slammed and Edgeway, who are speed on the inside guys. Chi-Town Lady, by the way, is not that slow, the 3. Then you've got a few horses that are more closers, sort of mid-pack. And then you've got Goodnight Owl, Hot Peppers, Lady Rocket, Echo Zulu. And I talked to Marshall Graham yesterday. And again, another show I'm very proud of, guys. Check out the BCBC show where we talk about live money contests with 2 former champions, Matt Miller and Marshall Graham, and then another fantastic handicapper and contest player, Frank Mustari. Marshall Graham has connections with Lady Rocket and Frank's Rocket, and they mentioned Lady Rocket pretty much has to go, the 12. So you're right, Paul, that horses have won from way outside. Echo Zulu draws a 13. That's pretty far outside, and I have a hard time believing she's not going to be 3 or 4 wide throughout, or at least some point. So unless Santana finds a way to tuck in, which would be a semi-miracle, but I suppose it's possible. Echo Zulu is going to have her hands full, Paul. I was really not a fan of her anyway. I'm less of a fan of her now.
Well, Groupie Doll won from the 11. Remember, my girl Groupie Doll, who was the only one to win this race back-to-back.
No respect. Echo Zulu is no Groupie Doll, in my opinion.
Right. However, remember this about Echo Zulu in the post. Echo Zulu went to the lead last time because she was on the rail in the dogwood, and they just figured, and she was 1-2. Let's not screw around and send. She doesn't have to go to the lead here. She's basically, you treat her like a cutback, like she was last time. Am I thrilled with Santana on this one? Nothing against him, but he's more of a go type. I'd rather have someone who's a little more tactical, but again, I think the horse is 2 for 2 at this distance. I think she's going to turn out to be a very good one-turn horse going forward, and I am going to be using her. So there, Howard.
Okay. Kyle, final thoughts before we talk about the turf sprint.
I mean, that's completely fair. I mean, there's a lot of these horses that can possibly sit that tactical trip getting that first jump, but for me, just personally, whether, obviously Echo Zulu is very good. She's shown it before. There's no reason why, I don't like her, but if there was a scenario where she could tuck in, I don't think it's completely impossible at all that she can win. But I mean, this is definitely another race that you can probably catch a price on someone coming from behind.
Okay. I think this race could completely collapse. Guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the turf sprint. Then we're gonna take a quick Cotillion. I love the
Howard, who's gonna call this race next year?
It wouldn't be your friend and ours, Miss Jessica Paquette, would it be?
How great is that? I know there's a lot else going on, but how great is that?
That is very cool. No question about it. And I did not know that Angela Herman, who's been on this show, who's at Canterbury now, is actually the first woman to call a full card in the history of horse racing in the United States. I didn't actually know that. I read more into the story, so that's pretty cool too.
And Jessica's number 2. She will be at Park starting in December. So you come on the HHH Racing podcast, and your career just takes off.
Yeah.
Kyle, you are the notable exception, unfortunately.
That's true. No, he's not wrong. It's okay.
Paul, like I said to Kyle 5 or 6 years ago, he'd be out with his buddies, trick-or-treating and causing mayhem. And now look at this young man. He's on our show with a big national audience talking horses. So
Howard, we got him to be a mature degenerate.
No, trust me, it was before that. Don't you worry about that.
And that is not an oxymoron, by the way, those 2 words. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the turf sprint, and then we're going to take about a 90-second, 2-minute break, give us a chance to take our deep breath, give people at home. Because listen, everyone's running out of pen. Their ink is running out with their pens. They're scrabbling around, taking all these notes. So we'll take a short break after this turf sprint post positions, and then we'll come back for the rest of the card. Guys, the turf sprint. I'm going to go first. How's that? I'm going first this time.
Switch it up.
Golden Pal, 2 things. Will not be 2-1. Number 1. Will be lower. Number 2, this is a great post. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. When they were doing the post positions, I think the 3 and the 8 were the last 2 posts to go, and Golden Pal had not been called. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if Golden Pal catches the 3, that would not be ideal. You don't really want to be stuck down inside. I know he's super fast, but I prefer to be to the outside. And when they said number 8, Golden Pal, I was like, race over. Paul?
Yeah, well, and I've been, of course, trying to beat him, but that was literally the last post drawn. Yeah. The 8 Golden Pal was the only one left, and you're right, Howard. I'm not positive. It was something inside. I'm not positive which one, but Golden Pal's name came out last, and he got probably the best post. So, yes, he is going to take some beating, but we have 5 days to figure out how to do it.
Well, I know you've been very clear, just for all of our new viewers and people who've been watching. And Paul might be right Saturday. We'll see. Paul's been steadfast. How's that? Good word, right, Paul? Good word.
Not
I know
bad.
you're the wordsmith. He has been very firm on his beliefs that Golden Pal's regressing a bit and is very vulnerable. I tend to disagree. We'll see. Kyle, thoughts on Golden Pal, his post, not the handicapping, and others that you see that got good or bad posts.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing. I was sitting there in the lunchroom at work, and I literally said out loud, I said, "Oh, race is over." Once he got the 8, and then some guy looks at me and goes, "What?" I said, "Don't worry about it. Nothing. You won't understand." But yeah, I just think Golden Pal, just how he is at Keeneland, drawing the 8, clears. If he has to sit outside of Highfield Princess, if he actually is that fast, which I don't think he's as fast as Golden Pal. I don't think anyone's as fast as Golden Pal nearly in this race, but it's just the way it's going to be. I like that Casa Creed kind of drew outside. I like when that horse has a little bit more outside in the lane to run at. And I don't think I think Campanelle getting Dettori, I don't think that's horse is necessarily impossible either to catch a piece underneath Golden Pal. I really don't think anyone truly got the ass end of it, for lack of a better term. But I just think Golden Pal got definitely the supreme draw out of all of it.
If you guys can comment, and I am serious about this, I'm going to go back. That view that I had with us at the bottom of the screen, I don't put up too often. Please comment. Paul likes that. Please comment in the chat. Do you guys actually prefer this view or on the side? If I bring up comments though, then like for example, Carl Mounts, a new viewer of the show. Carl, thank you very much from Great Britain. Carl, worldwide audience here. Carl, thanks for joining the show, sir. We really appreciate it. But I am serious. Yeah, it's really late, but it's very early in the morning there. So thanks, Carl. I am serious. A comment in the chat or maybe below the video player. Do you like this view, or perhaps you like this view better? We're actually on the bottom of the screen. The problem is, guys, when we bring up banners, then it gets a little bit tricky. But anyway, real quick, my thought here is Creative Force, horrible post at the 1. I thought Creative Force was interesting with William Buick. Not good at all. Campanelle, the number 4. Fantastic post, although it might not matter. Highfield Princess, perfectly fine, the 6, although I think Highfield would have been better, guys, drawing outside of Golden Pal. Yep. Just my general opinion. And then Artist City Limits, the 14, like Caravel, not good post at all. Bran and Casa Creed, who could be horses underneath, draw pretty far outside, not ideal either. I think the moral of the story, guys, is Golden Pal got a great post. I think anything outside of 13, 14, 1 or 2, and people would have been pretty happy if you're a Golden Pal fan, and that's what he got. Final thoughts, Paul, as I set up something for a quick break here.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of like Creative Force. I don't think it's so deal. The whole key, Howard, is someone has to go with Golden Pal. That you're not going to – I don't think he's uncatchable. But he's uncatchable if no one runs with him the first quarter mile. And, that's going to be, that is going to be the question. I think Davey was kind of against Highfield Princess on your show, right, Howard?
Yes.
I took notes. I want you to know I went back and watched it. I took assiduous notes.
I'm sure you did. Wait, what was that word?
Assiduous.
That was a word.
Very good. Okay. Kyle,
remember, Frankie does have a history with Campanelle. He's ridden him 5 times. He rode him in the Juvenile Phillies turf 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's ridden him in Ascot. Her.
There we go. By the way, Paul, Kyle knows all these words because he went to the Harvard of the Midwest. Kyle, tell them where you went to college.
Yeah, I went to Carroll University, the very small Harvard of the Midwest. Yeah, that's what people call it.
That's good.
All right. So, guys,
we'll see.
Finish your thought there, Paul. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was watching the draw as Kyle was, and I was just thinking that, like you said, Howard, I'm thinking, put him in somewhere to make it not ideal. I mean, if you asked Wesley Ward, he probably would have picked 6, 7, 8, right? So, he's going to take some beating, but it's early in the card, and he can go wire to wire, and I'll still have plenty of pick 4s, 5s, and 6s to play.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be a lot of people are going to be leaning on him, I would think, and a lot of exotics for sure. So, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take literally about a 2-minute break. That's it. 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Let everyone catch their breath. And then when we come back, guys, we'll be back for the last, 1, 2, 3, doing the math here. What is it? 2, 7, I believe. The last 7 races.
8.
Is it 8? Okay. No, we've covered 2, Paul.
No, we covered 2. You're right.
Yeah. The last 7 races on Saturday. So everyone take a quick trip to the bathroom, go grab a beverage. We will be there goes Paul. I mean right now, Paul. I meant wait till I'm off the screen. That's okay.
I was gonna wait.
That's right. We will be back in 2 minutes, everyone, with the rest of the card here for Saturday. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Thanks for watching the HHH Racing Podcast.
You've picked your power forward. Your all-star receiver keeps scoring. Now it's time to race across the finish line and put even more points on the board. Download the Stable Duel app and get in on the thrill of horse racing. Choose your horses, your jockeys, your track, and win thousands in daily games competing against other players. Move up the annual leaderboard and bring home real cash prizes daily. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
All right, we are back here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Had to take care of a few advertisements there. Of course, our proud sponsor, Stable Duel, along with the Adelphi Racing Club, and of course also Hawthorne Racecourse, Chicago's hometown track. Guys, let's go ahead and talk about. We have 7 more races to discuss. We'll do it relatively briefly here. Let's discuss. Kyle, I was going to have you actually say the sponsor. I know you love the sponsor of the next race. Kyle, who's the sponsor of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, by the way?
The best one to say, and I know it's what they love saying on live YouTube. Big ass fans, Dirt Mile.
The big ass fans, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Oh, what do we got there?
No, it's on my desk at work. I have that too.
I love it. That's sort of a small ass, I'd say. But anyway, that's what we get the point. We get the point. All right, let's talk about, guys, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I don't have a real strong opinion in this race, handicapping wise. Of course, we'll talk about this on Saturday. Guys, let's try it. Let's focus on the post positions here with our comments. Paul, who got the best or worst of it? It's a very short run into the first turn. You know, we should have mentioned, we were remiss in mentioning this, Paul, and I feel bad. We should have. On Friday, just to go back a little bit, the 2 juvenile races are very short run in the first turn, the dirt races. Short runs in the first turn, a shorter stretch with a mid-stretch first line finish. So you really can't be too far back in the Friday dirt races. We should have mentioned that as we were talking about it. This race, Paul, very short run in the first turn. That can have a big effect on this race. There's 11 horses. You obviously don't want to be wide. Who do you think got the best or worst of it here?
I am all over simplification to be on the board in this race, and I think the 2 is excellent. I want inside in this configuration, and most importantly, I go from Paco Lopez to Luis Saez, which is a Grand Canyon-esque upgrade in jockeys. I think that this Antonio Sano, I was there. That was the Pennsylvania Derby, as you know. I was reporting live for the show. He was livid with Paco Lopez after that race. Paco Lopez was told, go to the lead. But as he tends to do, Paco wants to do things his way and did not go to the lead. And Mr. Sano was not happy about it. Hence, Mr. Saez is on this horse. This horse could be forward. He's cutting back. Saez is definitely going to send him. And I think that this horse is going to go a long way. And I will have him on top a little bit, but I think he is one of your classic reverse tri-key horses, Howard.
I love the play, Paul. So you think he's going to be on the lead? You think they're just going to send at all costs, basically?
I think that I'm not going to say send at all costs, but I'll tell you what, Howard. How hard do they have to send? Now, Pipeline is the horse that forced Jackie's Warrior's hand in the forego. So you'd have to think that Pipeline stretching out to a mile is going to go. That's one. Gunite is tactical. Informative is a hopeless long shot. The horse I like in the race, though, we're talking about this on Wednesday night, but my top pick is going to be Cyberknife. I think they picked the right race, and I think the 9 post is going to be just fine. But Cyberknife was, right on top of the pace in the Travers. Did a lot of running in the Travers. So, but yeah, I think simplification. If we're talking about the post, I think getting the 2, knowing that they want to be forward and can save ground. I think he did pretty well at the entry box today.
Kyle?
Again, I know Paul's going to want to talk about it a lot on Thursday, but I mean, just Cody's Wish. If you're not rooting for this horse on Saturday, I couldn't tell you what you're going to do. I mean, Cody's Wish, just the story alone, but I mean, the race doesn't set up necessarily poorly for him. He's going to be towards the middle. He's going to have a clear run, most hopefully, but I mean, this horse is impossible. He's getting hot at the right time coming into this race. Beat Jackie's Warrior. Granted, Pipeline ran basically with him for 3/4 of a mile or half a mile. Sorry, but I'm gonna be rooting for Cody's Wish. I think you're gonna get 5-2 on Cody's Wish, maybe 2-1. But I mean, playing him with exactas with horses like Simplification could really get you some guys value.
And who is this wearing a Saratoga special hat, Howard?
That's Cody.
That's Cody. How's that?
Very cool. It's a great story. We've talked about it a few times. I think Kevin B's got a great question here. Laurel River has to be shorter on the day. I think so. This is a Baffert horse who has got big numbers and speedy. I think Laurel River is going to be more like 3-1. I think Laurel River could be the favorite in this race. My general thoughts in terms of post position is you don't want to be very wide. I think everyone did just fine. If you like Simplification like Paul does, that's a good spot. Gunite, who I don't like this race at all, got a good post. Laura Ribble's fine. Cody's Wish can sit off the inside speed. Cyberknife can stalk outside of the speed that's going to go. I actually think a lot of horses got really good posts in that race. You got bombs on the outside that don't really matter much in theory. So I actually, if you want a fairly run race, I mean, you never know, but if you want a fairly run race, I'd say the Dirt Mile actually turned out to be one of those races. Guys, let's go back to the
Kevin
turf.
B. Howard. Kevin B. brings up a good point, but I think it applies even more to Cody's wish. He said Kevin B. says he wishes Gunite had a race around 2 turns. This is the dilemma with Cody's wish: 5 for 5 at a mile, which this race is. All of them 1-turn miles. That
He did
again.
run well.
Yeah, I was in this.
He did run well in the I think it was the Challenger Stakes at Tampa Bay. Am I remembering that correctly, Paul? The 2-turn race at Tampa.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Right. That's how sick I am right now, guys. We got 200 horses. I'm just calling out a specific line in a race because I'm a sicko. But yeah, Cody's wish is probably better around 1 turn. But I think the race is going to set up well for him.
Beating Dynamic 1 that day, just losing to Scalding. I mean, he didn't lose to bad horses or beat bad horses whatsoever.
No, not at all. All right, guys, Philly Mare Turf. As we move on to the next race here, a field of 12. This is basically the Euros versus Chad Brown. Now this is very important that I'm going to put us. I like this sort of cinema view. The posts don't matter very much in this race, and the reason is because I should have brought up the track configuration. I should remember. I'll do that for the next 2 days, guys. Actually, I might try to bring it up tonight here before we leave. This race is a mile 3/16. It changes like every year depending on where it's run. This is at the top of the stretch. There's the longest run possible, basically, into the first turn happens in this race. And if you want to go back and watch the other 2 previous runnings of this race at Keeneland, you'll know what I'm talking about. Kyle, I don't really think post position means that much in this race. There's plenty of time to get to the first turn. But just for argument's sake, who do you think got the best of the draws here?
I mean, I think the Euros are the ones that are going to get the best of the draw. I mean, drawing 3, 4, 5 on the inside there. I mean, having, not as much speed as the rest of them, but I mean, they're going to have enough speed to sit tactically in the middle, get covered up. I think the Euros got a very nice draw in this race. I mean, you can argue an Italian got a bad post drawing next to Virginia Joy. Granted, they're stablemates though, so I don't know how much they're going to want to fight each other. I mean, an Italian's going to probably exactly.
I can ask that question. None.
Well, yes, that's correct. But I just think an Italian's faster than Virginia Joy is probably going to get out in front. I mean, Lady Spitespear is going to be up there towards the front, but I mean, I don't think an Italian necessarily got a bad post, although some people are going to argue it. Like you said, it's the longest run of the first turn that you can get. I mean, like you said, post really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Paul?
Yeah, I think the Euros are going to be tough here. I'm going to take a long look at Moira, who's not a Euro, but a Canadian that picks up Frankie Dettori. We've talked about it coming off a really bad trip in the EP Taylor. Nashua is a serious filly. This 3-year-old filly that Holly Doyle is coming from Japan to ride. She and her husband, Tom Marquand, started riding in Japan last weekend for about 3 months, but obviously she's coming over for this. So I think Kyle is onto something. I think Nashua is going to be tough. And, Howard, of course, you and I can't be right on Rogier. So we were all over him. He lost. I didn't have a nickel on him last time. He wins it almost 5.5 to 1.
Wait a minute, Paul. Who say again? Did you say he?
She.
Kyle, I'm pretty sure I heard. By the way, for those people
who
took a drink. What's going on? When we give the wrong gender of the horse, it's a drink.
Which we do all the time.
Join us at home, everyone. Any wrong gender, have a beverage. Go ahead, Paul. I'll let you finish anyway.
Aiden O'Brien has a horse here who was run against the boys. Speaking of boys, in Tuesday, there's been some chatter about that horse. His guy Ryan Moore comes over to ride him. I'll tell you, you never want to count out a Chad Brown, and Chad has won this race 4 of the last 9 years, but and coming off a win. But I would be shocked if Virginia Joy finds a way to win this race. Of all the Chads, I do not like that horse even a little bit. Yeah, but I'm going to look at. I think Nashua is the most likely winner. Didn't get hurt by the post, but I am going to take a long look at Moira and see. And of course, in Italian is the horse who's really in the best form of the U.S. horses.
Again, handicapping mainly is going to be the next 2 nights. In Italian, I think we'll have no issue clearing at all. The 11 hole is absolutely fine. Virginia Joy, just her inside is not nearly as fast. And if Irad even breathes on Joel, I don't think Irad's going to ride a horse for Chad ever again. So that ain't happening. The one thing that's interesting that people need to take note are some of these Euros on the inside, especially Nashua and a little bit of Tuesday, do have some decent early speed. I expect Holly Doyle to be asked early on Nashua and not be that far off for in Italian. In fact, I think Nashua might be just right behind the leaders there. At least that's what I'm personally hoping. So just because you see Euros doesn't mean they're going to be slow. Moira, if you like Moira, I'm not too concerned about the outside post. That should be fine. The problem here, Paul, and I'm going to go full screen, is that if you project this race to not have a lot of speed in it, and you have a horse like Moira who's mired on the outside, that's a problem. Like if you like Moira, you actually want a bunch of speed to sort of spread out the field. So that I don't think that works real well for Moira being outside in this particular sequence or this situation because there's not a lot of speed to spread the field. I can see a lot of like bunched together, Paul, and see her like being stuck out in like the 4 or 5 path. That's my issue. Just wanted to bring that up there, and it's a plenty. There's a decent run in the stretch. It's going to be a very good race. The weather is going to be incredible, by the way, it looks like. I mean, I'm just blown away how good the weather is going to be. They did get a bunch of rain yesterday, Keeneland. They expected to get rain, and it's not going to be like really hot or really sunny this week. It's going to be more like a little bit cloudy, but it's going to be in the 60s. So the turf is not going to be firm at all by any means, but it's also not going to be yielding. They might list it as firm. I think it's going to be on good. I think it's going to be very good is my opinion.
It's Howard. It's going to be a lot. Howard, it's going to be a lot firmer than you would expect in Kentucky in the first weekend in November.
No question about that. No question about it. All right, guys, let's go to the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We already talked about, if you missed us at the beginning of the show, when the show is over, go back and listen to the first 10 minutes because there were 2 big things that happened today outside of post positions. One is Frankie Dettori announced that he's going to be riding in Santa Anita in the winter. And the other, most people would say, unfortunately, is Jack Christopher out of the Breeders' Cup completely. Again, you can read about it. You can watch our first 15 minutes. We talked about it. Paul, you expressed your disappointment. Actually, Kyle, I'll let you go first. You guys both sort of expressed your disappointment. You got Jackie's Warrior 4 to 5. Again, we're going to focus on the post positions, not the handicapping. Jackie's Warrior has been inside many of his races. I think he was in the 3 hole last year when he lost at Santa Anita and was getting pushed from the outside. Jackie's Warrior has 0 excuses, in my opinion, breaking from the 9 hole. And other than Super Ocho, the 7, who is a horse count that you and I should know because that was a horse that we saw run when we were playing in a live contest, who is very fast and will not get steady this time. My guess is Jackie just sits off a Super Ocho and goes by.
Yeah, I mean, and I said it in the text chat earlier. I said it at the top of the show. This is completely Jackie's Warriors race to lose now. I mean, it's getting finally getting that outside post that that Steve and Joel have dreamed of for this horse. Finally getting it to sit off Super Ocho. There's no way without Jack Christopher in my eyes. I mean, I don't see a scenario where Jackie's Warrior loses. Just being able to get that good trip. Again, I'm still interested in Kamari for an piece underneath, but having a closing kick to kind of get to Jackie's Warrior, I don't think it's going to be good enough to catch. I don't think Jackie's Warrior also is not, and you can say Cody's Wish caught him last time, but I don't think Jackie's Warrior going to be nearly as pushed as hard as he was last race.
Paul, in terms of underneath, Kamari, who is second choice, really nice filly. Got a very good post. I don't think anything about the 2. American Theorem, who also is a nice horse. I wish drew further out. I think the further outside, the better for American Theorem. He's a big, sort of a big, lanky, fast horse that's been doing better on the outside. And let's not forget Aloha West, who's coming back last year as Breeders' Cup champion. I mean, we're probably overanalyzing it. Jackie's Warrior got a great post, Paul. That's really all we need to know.
Yeah, to Kyle's point, Jackie's Warrior has run 17 times and has only drawn outside the 6 post twice. Drew the 7 once in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and got beat by Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie. and keep me in mind, and drew the 9 in the Saratoga Special, a race that I covered for the Saratoga Special, second career race in August of 2020, and won. Everything other than that has been inside the 7 post. So, Kyle, you were right on target. We talked last week, Howard, the race at Saratoga, not only did Pipeline really push Jackie's Warrior, there is that matter of the extra furlong that he is not going to have to navigate on Saturday. So, hey, look, anything can happen, and I'm not here to tell you to mortgage your house on a 4 to 5 shot. But I'm disappointed because I think Jackie's Warrior could have been closer to 2 to 1, if not 2 to 1, maybe 9 to 5, 2 to 1, with Jack Christopher in the race, and I was going to be all in on a rather large flat bet on Jackie's Warrior at those odds. Now the dynamic has changed.
Paul, count real quick because I notice we have a lot of people watching that were not watching before. We've got fantastic power picks. This is our tip sheet. Look below the video player. It's only going to be $4 this weekend. I mean, that's crazy. It's only $16 for the entire month, and I'm not upcharging anything for the Breeders' Cup. We're not going to do that to you people out there. If you're interested, look below the video player. Sign up very soon. If you receive it every Saturday, but for this weekend, you'll receive it on Thursday. Both editions of the Breeders' Cup days. Check that out. We also have a Pick Six Syndicate. We're playing into the Friday Pick Six and Saturday Pick Six. This closes Wednesday at noon Eastern. If you are interested at all, email me immediately, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. I'll send you the information on where you can send your money and how you sign up. We have almost $10,000 in the kitty to bet into those Pick Sixes. It's a great opportunity to do that. And then, of course, we have a fantastic website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Check that out as well. All right, guys. Breeders' Cup Mile. We've got, 4 races left here. Breeders' Cup Mile. I think the post matters a lot in this kind of race. Excuse me. It's a short run into the first turn. They're pretty tight turns at Keeneland. I know some races posts don't matter. I think posts matter a lot here in this race. And the way these posts turned out, Paul, are very bad news, in my opinion, for some very likely horses that can be in the money, like Annapolis drew the 11, Kinross, the British horse, who was a very nice sprinter, stretching out, drew the 13, and poor Domestic Spending. What a great story this is, coming back of a year layoff, and gets mired, nice word for Paul Halloran, mired in the 14 hole. Absolutely brutal, Paul.
Yeah, Chatty might have scratched the wrong horse today, Howard. But let's be clear though. This is a very talented racehorse, and this horse kind of presents a problem because on his best day, he is very, very formidable. But the combination of the layoff with Chad, we talked about this last week. I think this horse kind of convinced Chad, though he was just working so well. I don't think a month or 2 months ago Chad was thinking, I'm going to have this horse ready for the Breeders' Cup, but the horse is working so well. But who didn't get bothered by the post is Modern Games.
Oh yeah. Do you agree with Kevin here on the bottom of the screen, Paul?
I think Kevin is using great understatement to use the word gift. If Modern Games is 7-2, I will do something very foolish on the wagering front. Yeah, I think.
Is the house mortgage on the line, perhaps?
Not quite, because it's not paid. But
okay.
I just think
you'll get it back in the Pick Six. Don't worry about it.
Let me tell you one of the key angles for this race historically, Howard, is having a horse who specializes in this distance. I brought it up last week when we did our first run through. Modern Games, 5 starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds. The only difference, caveat to that, I would say, is the Euros are always good for an extra furlong over here. If they get 7 over there, you assume they're going to get 8 over here, and that's where I think Kinross comes in. But as you said, Howard, is Domestic Spending in the 14, Kinross in the 13. So I just think Modern Games was the best horse coming in. and got the best of it at the entry box.
Kyle?
My one's going to be used here. I 100% agree. And it's, I mean,
that's another
there's-
time.
yep.
By the way, those of you at home, when Kyle says 100%, which he likes to say like 5 times a show, that's another chance for you to drink at home. So go for it, everyone.
No, I give myself a quota. I get maximum 1 now. But
Oh, wow. Okay, that's too bad.
that's too bad. Everyone wants to drink out there. I get it. But yeah, a 7-2 would be an absolute gift. I said it to reply to Kevin B in the chat. Absolute gift. I mean, this horse, especially with the US form that it showed and North American form that it showed, I don't think this horse sniffs 7-2. And I really wanted domestic spending to get a good post in this race. I mean, like I said, short run in the first turn, which is going to be really hard to navigate. But domestic spending, I mean, like Paul said, he's an extremely talented horse. And Howard said, of course, he's an extremely talented horse. I don't think he's going to have he's going to have a hard time navigating. But with Flavian, I don't see, if he's on his best and he's going to run like he's training, this horse might have a shot at least for underneath. And that would be, what a great story that would be.
Modern Games got a great post, much better than the other 3. There's no way you're getting 7-2. This horse will be 5-2 at best, I would say. A horse that I really wasn't considering, and again, we'll talk more Wednesday. 2 horses I just want to throw out there. Pogo is not a bad sprinter, and these Euros like to save ground and be covered up. The 1 is the 1 a great spot to be? Not necessarily, but he is going to save ground in a big field. And the other horse is Smooth Like Straight, who I've always been a fan of. He's never going to get the job done. I don't like him to win, but I think there's not a lot of speed guys. The 5-hole is perfect. I think he'll have the lead early, or at least have the opportunity to have the lead early. And a race where some of the more likely winners have bad posts, that's the situation where crazy stuff happens. So I don't know. It's interesting. If you're a Modern Games fan, you got to absolutely love the post for sure.
Drew Well, who could get lost here, is Regal Glory, the male.
Yeah, but she hasn't been able to go by an Italian, so now she's going to go by a bunch of males. I
don't know. I'm thinking, as far as being part of it,
Yeah. There's a lot of horses can be.
We're talking about drawing the 8 is kind of ideal. She is a mile specialist. We talked about that. 12 out of 14 in the exacta. She did run against the boys in the 4-star Dave, and Casa Creed ran by her, which is that's really nothing to be that ashamed of. I'm not positive she's good enough to win, but I think I'm going to be using her. I think of the chatties, she may have the best shot.
I want to make sure we recognize some of our new viewers to the show. And listen, folks, don't just come on to the chat for the Breeders' Cup. We've been having incredible shows and podcasts and coverage all year long. So please don't be a stranger, and also please subscribe. We'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. We'd appreciate all that. Mike Williams, we'll talk about Flightline a little bit. Mike, a new name I've seen. Thanks for joining the show, Mike. Really appreciate that. Guys, we got 3 races left, and 2 of these last 3 especially are some of the 2 of the most highly anticipated races of the entire weekend. So we're going to very quickly talk about post positions. Again, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be covering in detail the Friday card, going through PPs with Justin Christine, showing a lot of replays, etc. And then Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, close to 2 hours, covering every single Breeders' Cup race on Saturday and giving our top 3 opinions, including a pick 5 as well. The distaff, guys. A small field, but I'm not complaining about this field because literally everyone, I would say, except the 5 Awake at Midnight, has a shot to win this race, and probably the 3 Secret Oath. But there are 6 horses, 6 of the best affiliate mares in the country are together in this race. Paul Halloran, you got Malathot drawing the rail. You have Ines, the Moorline favorite, at 9-5 in the 6-hole. And interesting enough, the 2 main speeds in this race are both on the outside, drawing next to each other. That's a fascinating dynamic, Paul.
Yeah, this is a great race, Howard, as you say. Although I'm pretty squarely in the Nest camp for this race. Although, don't sleep on Society. Speaking of our girl Jessica, who gave us Society in the cotillion. But I we'll talk more on Wednesday. But Clariere, and I know she had the issue with the gate last time, so I guess you have to excuse it. But as far as her and Malathat, um, horses who repeat in this race from year to year, who did not win the first time, are 0 for 44 for whatever that's worth. Again, I think if depending on how you're playing, this is like one of those races we would talk about on a Saturday where let's say you think that those three are the most logical winners. If you're playing a caveman and you use all three of them, your ticket's going to get expensive. So you might have to make a stand. And I think if I had to make a stand here, and unfortunately I think it's with the favorite, but I just find no chinks in the Nest armor. I think she can be tactical. The distance is obviously not an issue. She did lose to Malathat somewhere down the line, I believe.
Hey, Paul, real quick, can we talk about the pace scenario, because that's our main focus here, and society is quicker than search results, right? So the problem is search results has to go,
correct,
because society is right to her outside. That's going to force Flavian's hand. If you like search results, I think it's a very bad post for search results, mainly because society is right outside of her. And if you like society, I actually like the post for her.
I agree with you on everything you just said, Howard. I think society is definitely.
Let me put that on a reel, and we'll just keep playing that over and over a few months from now when you think I'm horrible.
I think search. And I'm a huge fan of search results, and she shows up all the time. But I just agree. I think the search results wins this race by laying second and taking the lead, and now having to hold off those monstruses coming after you. And I think it's going to be very hard to do.
Kyle, with Clarier and Malathat inside of the speed and inside of Nest, does that force their hand at all? I mean, and also, Nest is a, sort of mid-pack kind of horse, Kyle, but now she's got two speed horses right to her outside. I'm not saying Flavian or Florent are going to do anything nefarious, but would I be surprised if Nest gets bumped out of the gate a little bit with two horses trying to come over and out to her outside? That's a little bit dicey for Nest, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely not a scenario out of the realm of possibility. I just think Nest kind of goes with them out of the gate and then just sits the nice. I mean, the way that this filly runs, I mean, she makes her own trips. She just has so much tactical speed, so much upside, in my opinion. I'm in agreement with Paul. I'm in the Nest camp. I just think she goes with search results, not goes as quote unquote, but she goes with them out of the gate, clears the rest of them, slots in right behind the speed, and kind of works her own trip that way is kind of the way I saw it. But again, I know everyone's going to say the wise guy horse is Clariere and all this. I really don't see a scenario why this horse can't at least get second. If not, if there's enough speed in the race, why she can't come over the top like she has so much before. I mean, people are going to throw her out because of the last race, but excuses can be made for that race with the gate trouble and being fractious and all that. I don't see why she's completely out of the realm of possibility in this race.
Last thing I'll say here, and of course we'll give our picks on Saturday. Everyone wants to sit behind search results in society. So I think Clarier and or Malathat, especially Malathat, might be ridden a bit more aggressively than normal because you don't want to get shuffled back. You want to try to sit behind the two speeds. So I think this pace could be a little hotter. And Secret Oath is not Secret Oath is not fast enough. I changed my mind. I don't know. This is a real good jockey's race too. It's just a real good race overall, guys. And it's going to be a showdown. And the winner is probably the older filly and mare champion for the year. I mean, just one of those situations. Of course, Ness is a 3-year-old, so she doesn't fit into that category. Ness is already the 3-year-old filly of the year. That's not even a question. Guys, we got 2 more races left. We got the Turf, and we have, of course, the Classic. The Turf is a big field of 13, which I'm about to bring up. Paul, we're going to let you go first. Now, there's no question that the posts matter here, and the reason is because it's not a real short run to the first turn, but it's not a long run either, and this is a 3-turn race, Paul. So If you're hung out wide on the first turn of a 3-turn mile-and-a-half turf race, forget it. I mean, to me, that's like automatic tosses. You got to find a way to be aggressive early and save ground, or just take back and not be wide on the first turn. Because to me, Paul, that is an absolute death knell. You see the field there in front of us for the turf. What stands out to you? It's a nice field. It's not the best field we've ever seen in this race. There's some nice heroes coming in. Again, no monsters. You got Warlike Goddess. In terms of the post positions specifically, Paul, what's your impressions?
Well, Misriff, I took a look at after listening to Davey on your show, Howard. Misriff gets the 11, which is not ideal. Nation's Pride draws very well in the 7 for Buick and Appleby. Those two there. Stone Age is a horse that I've heard a little bit about for Ryan Moore and O'Brien. He's down in the 3. Warlike Goddess is the top U.S. hope. Drew the 2. Probably doesn't matter that much. She is a dead stone closer, and yes, it is a she. The reason they're running in this race is the distance. They maybe would have run in the filly and mare turf if it was the traditional 1 3/8. But with that going back to 1 3/16, Bill Mott said this horse is a 1.5 mile horse, 5 for 5 at the distance. 3-turn races, Howard, the trainers will tell you got to save ground on the first 2 turns and then do whatever you want on the 3rd turn. So you're on target with getting hung out really wide on turn number 1 is not the way to go.
Kyle?
I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. Some people are putting in the chat, about talking about Joe Rosario riding Warlike Goddess. I mean, those back 3 starts, riding Warlike Goddess is perfectly would fit for a race like this, whether she's fast enough, whether you argue whether she's fast enough or not. I don't see anything. I'm not going to read in between the lines with jockey gymnastics and stuff like that.
Well, he wasn't Rosario wasn't in New York.
Right. Exactly. Because they were racing at Keeneland that weekend, and that's exactly right.
How about Dean G? Would rather have Lascano on the horse than Joel Rosario. Wow.
I mean, hey.
I'm not sure about that, guys.
Not for the way this horse runs.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, Nation's Pride getting William Buick. I'm happy and I'm torn because I love that William Buick rides Nation's Pride. That further solidifies my opinion in this race in a way. But I mean, just having that's going to definitely take down his price and probably make him the favorite in this race over Rebel's Romance, just for the sole fact that it's going to be Appleby and William Buick, and that's my view at least on that race. They're probably still going to be close. I'd say it's probably going to be switched where Nation's Pride goes to 3-1 and Rebels Romance goes to 4-1 or something along those lines.
Okay.
And I mean, I agree with, and I know Davey Lane said that as well on the podcast in the Euros, is that he thought Nation's Pride was going to get William Buick, and that was going to be an upgrade for him in this race as well.
Guys, I know we don't see this too much, especially in New York. I actually think there's a decent amount of speed in this race. And when you really look at it carefully, let me explain. Bye Bye Melvin has to go with Fergal Lynch. This horse has no chance, but he's a speed horse. Stone Age and Broom both have speed, but they're both Aiden. So one's going to go, one's going to take back. Paul, I'm telling you, Stone Age is not going to be that. One of those two is going to go. When I say go, Paul, I'm not crazy. They're not going to go 47, but they're going to go a little bit. Okay. What is Channel Maker going to do with Jose Ortiz? His best races are on the lead. They have no chance, but his best races are on the lead.
Oh, he's got to go. You're right.
He's got to go. Here's what I'm getting to. Misriff gets the 11. I think he'll be able to tuck in. I don't think the 11 is as bad as people are going to think. I think Dettori's going to take back, and he's going to make one big run. So I don't think the 11 is that bad for Misriff. And if you like Warlike Goddess, I'm personally against, but if you like her, the 2 is perfect to me. I know people can say, well, she's going to take back. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but it's easier to take back from the 2 hole than it is from the 11 hole. I mean, obviously. So the 2 hole is absolutely just fine with Warlike Goddess. The last thing I'm going to say, guys, about this race, people have been asking about Rebels Romance and Nation's Pride, and we'll talk about this more on Saturday. On Wednesday. But the fact that Buick is on Nation's Pride to me is very tells a lot. And I was really a little higher on Rebels Romance. And again, more conversation Wednesday. That puts Nation Pride above of Rebels Romance for me. And there's nothing wrong with James Doyle, by the way, Paul. James Doyle is a fine rider, but again, you're talking about a $4 million race or whatever. Is it four? I think it's 4 million. Yep. He had a choice, and Appleby had a choice, and who's going to be on the better of the two. And to convince anyone else, Davey Lane, who's an excellent handicapper, he's been on the show, blah blah blah. I DM'd him today. He also thought that makes a big difference. So even though Nation's Pride is accomplished less and is slower, Yabir had accomplished less and slower too last year. So just keep all that in mind. Paul, last thought, then we'll go to the class.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fairly simple. Buick is going to be on whom Appleby thinks is his better horse. I mean, Buick is his number one guy. And, that's even a bigger deal over there than it is here. They have contract riders and, they ride for the same. So, but I will say this, Howard, two things. One, Mishriff, I don't think is in the best form of his life, but you said something relatively cogent early on in this conversation. And you said, this is not the best edition of this race, which means Warlike Goddess, I'm going to use as, in my opinion, clearly the best shot of the U.S. horses.
No question about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that is, that's the that would be the reason to use that horse. You're right about Channel Maker, Howard. Only one way to go. Bye Melvin is definitely going. But Howard, if I could give you some advice, because we want you to be around after the Breeders' Cup. Yeah. If you're waiting for Ryan Moore to be forwardly placed in a turf route, don't do it underwater.
How about this comment, by the way? I know you agree with this, Kevin. Kevin said I've said the same thing 99% of the time that they have to go. They go 1% of the time. Kevin, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not.
Yeah, this is a different animal,
though. It's going to be a speed duel. I'm just saying one of them will be sent and one of them won't. What does sent mean? I'll leave it up to you. I've just, that's all I'm trying to say. All right, guys. We're coming up on an hour, 40 minutes left. We've done a great job. This is the big one. Again, we're not going to talk details about handicapping, but race flow in this particular classic is going to be huge. And I think it's pretty obvious as what's going to happen with the race flow. But where Life is Good and Flightline drew, I thought was extremely substantial and important into who had the best chance to win and how the race would be run to some extent. Guys, the Breeders' Cup Classic, you see there on paper. Let's just get right to it. Kyle, why don't you start first? Life is Good drew inside Flightline. If you are a fan of Life is good or bad, that he drew inside a Flightline.
I mean, people are going to argue that it's bad. I would have rather had him outside as well. I know Paul and I were talking before the show, and they had 2 and 7 left, and it was Olympiad and Life is Good. They called the 7. I was really hoping it was Life is Good, and they put Olympiad's name in there. But, I mean, it's not going to change the tactics, no matter which way you put it. I mean, Life is Good obviously is gunning for the lead, run them off their feet style, and hopefully Flightline just tries to chase a horse like Life is Good and gets caught up in the mix is really what the connections of Life is Good are hoping. But I mean, in that type of scenario, if Flightline, I mean, look, I'm not saying Flightline's going to lose. Everyone knows. I mean, they're drawing comparisons to Secretariat for Christ's sake.
Whoa!
I've heard it. I mean, that's horse racing Twitter. You can literally you can call anything on horse racing Twitter. I'm not saying I'm the one doing it, and I'm not the one doing it at all.
Paul, you okay, Paul?
I think I might have just killed Paul, but I think I might have just killed Paul. I'm just quoting people on Twitter. But
I just had a little palpitation there.
All right,
no, I am not saying it. I'm putting myself on that line. But
I've got the blood pressure medication handy, Paul, for this weekend especially, just let you know. Rumor is I'm going to have some pretty big bets coming up in the BCBC. I don't know, but sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And like I said, I'm not putting myself out there. Don't you dare clip that. But like I said, it's going to be that type of scenario that's going to be needed for a horse like Epicenter or a horse like Taba to try and come after a lead like that. Is you're hoping Flightline chases Life is Good, and you're hoping that either the ship or chasing a horse that like Life is Good that he's never run with before, you hope if you're a fan of Epicenter or Taba, that's the trip you hope to get and them to fly by on the stretch. And I agree with you, D&G. There's no horse like Secretariat, and comparisons, especially with a horse with 5 races in him, should not be compared.
Yeah, Mike, Secretariat lost 5 times. Flightline has run 5 times. Or 5 times.
Paul, how do you see? I mean, Life is Good is going. Flightline is sitting. What else do you have to say, right? I mean,
yeah, well, Life is Good. If you I watched him work in the morning on TV the other day. He's a very high-strung horse, and that's why the distance is. Even today, Howard. Today was just a gallop, and there was they showed the whole thing, and there was a lot of talk about what a great job Todd's exercise rider was doing. He just, he is sitting on go. It seems strange. You mentioned the run to the turn, Howard, in the turf. Well, this is the equally long run to the turn in the dirt, right? It's the entire length of the stretch. So the instinct is you would say, well, what do post positions matter? I think in this race they matter more than most. I do think Life is Good would have been much better off outside of Flightline. I don't think, and I have really come around to Taba after watching him win the Pennsylvania Derby. He's a horse that's green. He's a little, I think, hyperactive. I don't think, even though there's 8, I don't think being the first one in is going to help him. I don't think the 1 is a good spot for him. Now, again, it's 1.25 miles. Someone might say, you idiot, they got 10 furlongs to work it out, which means looking for an alternative to Flightline. And obviously, I understand Flightline is a highly likely winner. But as a serial horizontal player, I would like to be able to hit a horizontal if Flightline loses. So my top alternative now, we'll talk about Wednesday, is going to be Epicenter, who I did think drew very well.
I think everyone drew just fine. I think if there's 2 horses that I think drew negatively, I actually think it's the 2 inside horses. I agree. I think Life is Good would have been better on the outside. Taba did win from the 1 hole in the Pennsylvania Derby. He was a little bit uncomfortable in the Haskell, but apparently that's been worked out.
Taba was in the 8 in the Pennsylvania Derby.
I'm sorry, but he got over to the rail and was on the inside until the turn.
Right.
Is what I meant. Sorry, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But he did get over to the rail on the backstretch. I think this work. If you believe that Flightline is vulnerable, and I don't really think he is, but if you believe he's vulnerable, I think Epicenter has a fantastic post. He's going to break outside. He does have Olympiad to his outside, which may cause a little bit of problem only because Olympiad and Epicenter are sort of the same type of horse, and you don't want Olympiad like breathing on Epicenter on the outside. But I think Epicenter is going to be able to break fine, find a spot. The weird thing here, guys, is Hot Rod Charlie, Epicenter, Olympiad are all sort of mid-flight horses that if they want could be up closer, but if they don't, Epicenter is really the only of those horses that could take back. I firmly believe Epicenter is going to be further back than most people think. And I could be wrong, but I think Mike Smith's going to be aggressive. I think Tyler on Hot Rod's going to be aggressive because that's what Hot Rod Charlie is for the most part. Olympiad is not slow. I have a sneaky suspicion, guys, Epicenter is going to be the one finishing fastest in the lane. Fastest for second and lose by 10. Be right next to the to the winner at the wire. I don't know. My sneaky suspicion is Epicenter is going to be taken further back, guys. He's proven he can do it before. He did it in the Jim Dandy. He did it in the Preakness, although the Preakness I think was unintentional. That being said, it was done. It's going to be fascinating. The last thing I'm going to say, and I'll bring us on screen here, guys, and we're going to talk more about that on Wednesday. If I'm IRAD on Life is Good, and you like Life is Good, you break, you go to the lead, and then, you ready for this, guys? You go to the 3 or 4 path. He did this in the Pegasus, and you sort of bait Flightline to come to your inside or force Flightline 6 wide. And if Flightline comes at the inside, you know what's going to happen, Paul? IRAD might just happen to slide over a little bit.
And no chance that will happen.
Make Flightline uncomfortable on the inside. If I'm IRAD, that's what I do. I do not break and go to the rail. I think that'd be a big mistake unless the rail is very
I agree,
good.
Howard, but
Paul,
there's no
you've seen
chance.
Races for 75 years. What do you think of that strategy? I think that might work for Flightline possibly if you like Flightline.
I think there'd be very little chance that Pratt would fall into that trap. They think they're sitting on the best horse, and they're just going to they'll go as wide as he has to go. I agree with you. I think that's exactly what Irad will do. But I also think that Irad's not going to wait around for him. I think if Life is Good leads this race, sets fast fractions, and finishes fourth, I don't think his connections are going to be all that broken up, because that's the way he can win the race. Now, if someone's going to pressure him, but you saw last time, which was basically, kind of a workout type of race in the Woodward. He was criticized because, well, he almost got caught by Law Professor. He was almost geared down in the, what I mean? He just wasn't.
Yeah.
He didn't extend the lead on the backstretch like I think he will do in this race. I think he takes it to Flightline, and if they figure if we get beat, we're going to get beat doing what we do best. Kyle,
I know. Before you comment, Kyle,
Yep.
we're going to be on the show in just a second. Kyle, you're not going to be with us tomorrow night or Wednesday night. We have Pete Visco coming back with guests. So, Kyle, after you make your comment, I want you to talk about a particular horse that you like a bit of the price this weekend, and you're sort of most likely winner of the entire weekend, because you talked about this earlier. I think some people might be surprised. So again, finish your thought here. A long shot you like for the weekend, a most likely winner, and any thoughts for the viewers, because you won't be with us the next 2 nights.
Well, my one thought was is a little bit of a joke thought. It's Penn State Scott said it in the chat, but I did see that Rich Strike is working very well, so that he might have.
Oh, I don't want to kill the price. That's why I didn't mention it.
But honestly, it's just going to be a super fun day. 2 days of racing. It's always the best time of year for us horse fans. Summer Kentucky Derby. It's the Breeders' Cup for me. It's the best time of year, best betting opportunities possible. And I mean, just getting to see in person for the first time. I'll be there with Howard. I know he's mentioned it before, but it's just going to be some of the coolest stuff. And especially with the star power that is this year, it's just, I'm just so excited. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, but I just love it. Long shot of the weekend. I have 2. I really do like Campanelle. I don't think he could be a Golden Pal, but I really do like Campanelle. He's probably going to be somewhere around 8-1, 10-1, somewhere in that area. I think he definitely has a good shot to get up for second. And I had one more. I'm trying to think of it right now. I'm trying to look for it right now. But to answer your other question while I'm looking for it, I did say Cave Rock is the most likely winner of the weekend, but sadly, Jack Christopher scratched. Jackie's Warrior is probably your most likely winner of the weekend. And I don't think that's going against, that's not massive news to anybody out there.
Well, it's massive news only for the sense that Flightline will be lower, I would assume.
Right.
So yeah, Kyle, any final thoughts for the bettors this weekend, what they should look for? Now, Kyle, for everyone to know, and Kyle's been fantastic on this show, has done a great job for us. Kyle will be part of our power pick. So Kyle's opinions, each of one of our co-hosts, Kyle, Paul, Pete, and myself, we all have different races we're covering for the power picks. We split up the jobs. So you will hear from Kyle if you receive our power picks, just not the next 2 nights. Kyle, go ahead and finish your thought. Any final thoughts for the handicappers?
Yep, and to finish my point, long shot today, I'm gonna go G. Laurie and the Juvenile Phillies turf. I think that, especially getting William Buick, I think that she has a really good shot. And then Victoria Road in the juvenile turf, I think, is also very interesting. But like I said, just for the bettors, I know I'm notorious for this. It is early. I haven't mentioned it in a while. I'm not afraid to bet favorites, and you shouldn't either, especially this time of year. If you like a favorite, do not feel bad about liking the favorite. Unless it's a horse like Cave Rock or Jackie's Warrior, you will get a pretty decent price on these favorites. And I think you set a value line, which a value line is if it goes above, you've set the horse what you think it's going to be and what you want to bet it at. If it's above that odds, you bet the horse firm to win. And that's going to be my play on the weekend. I'm going to set a bunch of horses of my top picks and what I want to bet them at. If they're above that, I'm going to bet them to win. Just trust your opinions and be smart with your money. Don't go overboard what you don't have, but be smart with your opinions and win big, everybody.
We would never go. Who goes overboard over their budget? I mean, who the hell would possibly do that?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Especially with horizontal plays. I mean, what are we talking about? Kyle Roscoe, really appreciate your insight. Good luck. I look forward to being with you at the Breeders' Cup. Paul, you were fantastic tonight. We're going to be together, of course, with Pete Visco and 2 great guests the next Tuesday night. Again, folks, please join us tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go. The PPs are out. I just checked DRF. The PPs are out fully now for the cards on Friday and Saturday. Finish all of your homework. Please join us the next 2 nights. Spread the word about the HHH Racing Podcast and check out about all of our promotions below the video player. For Kyle Roscoe and Paul Halloran, this has been episode 200. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for watching the HHH Racing Podcast. We look forward to seeing you Tuesday night and Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday handicapping. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.